You will hit.
Because I only have Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Hopin as options and no Instagram.
We're actually live right now. I clicked it. So we'll talk about this after, but you guys are live, okay? So you're good to go.
And I'll stop primping. Cool.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to our new platform. We're all learning it just on the fly. So thank you for putting up with that quick technical glitch right there. My name is Molly Casey, and I have the honor of hosting today's Beauty Queens Galore interview with Miss Alicia Dalton-Tingler. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You did. First try, you got the whole thing. Excellent.
So proud of myself. Now, for everyone that doesn't know you, can you please introduce your title and your current platform?
Sure. So, like Molly said, I'm Alicia. I'm the United States of America's Mrs. West Virginia 2023. And in terms of like the formal platform, the thing that you'll see most if you go through my social media is about autoimmune disease. And that's because I happen to have one. But another thing that is also really important to me is femininity in maybe more masculinely fields that most people would attribute to men. I'm an engineer, and so I really like both of those things to get to talk about that because I feel like there's room for both of those things.
Now, on the autoimmune side, I think that's a topic or an interest, which is probably the wrong word, but just a topic in general that most people don't fully understand. Autoimmune can be kind of a nebulous idea. Can you tell me a little bit about more about what autoimmune means and how it affects you?
Sure. So I like how you went into that because I think a lot of people are in that space. It kind of sounds confusing and maybe they're not really familiar with it. So when I talk about autoimmune disease, I like to kind of go to Harry Potter. If you're familiar with Harry Potter, you probably remember his invisibility cloak. And he would cover himself with that and his friends and go into rooms either to spy, to hide, to protect himself. And the rest of the room didn't know he was there. That's unfortunately the case with most autoimmune diseases. You can't see them. You have no idea. And the challenge is it's really a growing field of research. There's only just in this last December did the government put forward money to form an Office of Autoimmune Disease Research. It's just getting started. But there are over 100 different types of autoimmune diseases. And I myself suffer from Graves' disease, which is my body attacked my thyroid. And that's the other weird thing about autoimmune disease. Your immune system protects you from bad things. That's its job. But in autoimmune disease, it turns on you. And it can be on any part of your body. And so when it turns on your thyroid, in my condition, it was called Graves' disease, and it made it super hyperactive. But but you can't tell. You can't look at me and see that in any way. And so I think that invisibility cloak thing really helps people have something tangible, something to understand, particularly if you don't have one, to think about. It could be right next to you, but you don't know that.
I had no idea that there was not any straightforward funding or research group in support of autoimmune conditions.
Yeah, it's shocking, isn't it? I mean, I know when I first decided to talk about it, I even had to hunt to find like the related nonprofit and to see if there was any activity in my home state. Was there, there's a National Autoimmune Disease Awareness Month, which is March. We just got out of that. But I worked with our governor's office to get West Virginia having March declared as its Autoimmune Disease Awareness Month. But there is just such a need. Truly, we're still kind of in that awareness stage.
Wow, I myself have POTS, so I kind of understand that world. I can't stand up too quickly, or else everything goes black. It's great. It's a lot of fun. But so with your work, you also mentioned that you kind of worked with your governor to make it West Virginia's national state month as well. What did that entail, and how did you use your title potentially in that process?
Sure. So the petitioning process involves detailing different facts and statements that can help them be able to educate people and show them the importance of it. And then going through that and the Secretary of State's office, that's when I finally got word that, yeah, it had been declared. And same kind of thing, like I'd reach over and get the thing and show you, but it's going to knock the laptop down and all of that. But it's on my social media. But it creates media. It creates a need for press. It created, and so it was covered in some of the largest cities in West Virginia in their media. And so it's just a good first step, but there's still quite a few to do.
I can imagine. And you're also in engineering. You're in a male-dominated field, which I think is kind of the exact opposite of pageantry a bit. Tell me about what it is like to kind of have that dichotomy of being a pageant queen and embracing your femininity and then working in a field where that's not always present.
I hate and I love that that's how you went into it. I hate the fact that people look at it as a dichotomy and look at it as not the norm. I want people to see it as the norm. I don't know why we cannot be a pageant queen and an engineer. There's no reason why we can't. I know when I was in school, it was one path or the other. If you were headed down an engineering path and you told someone that you were going to do a pageant, they got very confused. They couldn't understand, why would someone who's accomplished in that space want to do something like this? And I was married over a decade before I did my very first pageant. And for me, pageantry wasn't something I brought along with me from my youth. It was something that helped me regain that femininity. If you were first of all, you wouldn't have had this interview with me a decade ago, but if you did, I wouldn't look anything like this. I definitely degendered to fit in for the first easy decade of my career, because I was worried that I wouldn't be respected, that I wouldn't be seen as competent. And finally, especially by participating in pageantry, I realized, I'm speaking in public. I'm doing all of these things, and I'm still competent in my job. So when I started injecting my femininity back in, that's actually when my career took off, because I had more confidence. I was being true to myself. So I hope things like this video reach women who are in fields like that and remind them that it doesn't have to be a separate path.
I actually love that you have engineering and pageantry combined into one. I was more thinking about how, maybe how that male-dominated field views, being feminine and having a title. I see no problem with being pretty darn cool. I mean, you could probably, there's a million things you could do with it, but it's just an interesting thought to think about how you used pageantry to find who you kind of were again and what your femininity again. And is that the reason why you joined pageantry? Like, what was the push?
Don't get me choked up. I had no confidence as a child. Like so many women, I can claim the bullying and all of those difficult things. And I wanted that confidence. And people told me, oh, you should do these things. I didn't believe them. And even into my 20s, that just wasn't where my head was. And it wasn't until I got older and started to succeed professionally and see some things there that I started to feel really more empowered. I'm not going to say empowered, but I'll say more empowered. As I found pageantry, it was that how Stella got her groove back moment. It sounds so cliche, but it really was. And I wanted to be the best version of me I could be, not just for myself, but for my husband and for my life. I feel like I'm a better contributor to society when I'm feeling my best. And so it was a big confidence boost for me, honestly, and an opportunity to remind myself to pour into me, to take care of my fitness, to give myself the luxury, is how I viewed it, of keeping up with everything that you have to do when you're in a pageant. And it was just rewarding personally and very fulfilling.
That's spot on. I don't think most people understand that pageantry really is about building yourself up and building others up. And in the process, you start to glow from the inside out because you understand who you are more. And it causes you to really respect and appreciate, what you have to offer and who you are. And I don't know. I love that. And agree more. What was the first pageant you did? How did you progress to being the title holder you are today?
Gosh, I need to just accept it and embrace it. It's part of me. So in my mid 30s, I had quite a love for reality TV. And as I'm watching Housewives and those kinds of networks, I saw a commercial come on for a reality show about married women. Didn't even know anything like that existed, to be quite frank. Hadn't. And so I watched it and thought this might be the coolest thing ever. As I'm looking for that thing and what to do. And I was like, oh my gosh, this could be amazing, right? So started Googling and searching and whatnot, and found that my state did have a state level pageant for the Mrs. America system. And so I went and I watched it. And I went by myself, like 3 hours away. And I was just like, to my husband, I'll be back. And then just drove and stayed. And I was like, I just want to see this. I want to take, hold of it. And this was before everybody was live streaming. This was back in like 2015. So I sat there and I'm telling on myself, I recorded the whole thing on my phone because I wanted to be able to study it. I wanted to understand, what is this thing? And the bug bit me before I even got to compete. And so the very first pageant I ever did was West Virginia is a very big state for fairs and festivals. It's the biggest thing in all of West Virginia pageantry. We have over 80 fairs and festivals. And every January, they have a pageant for the queen of them all. And now these are Miss age contestants. And so I did a fairs and festivals pageant that had a Mrs. component to it. And I had to do 2 before I finally got a title. But then I finally got a title, right? And I used that to go compete in Mrs. West Virginia America. And I won. And what a ride it's been since then.
That's incredible. I love the persistence and the tenacity behind all of that. And the fact that you just went after it. You didn't have anyone whispering in your ear you took it and ran.
And, I think that to me is one of those pieces for the women who don't know that dichotomy piece, right? The women who are in fields, especially STEM fields, male dominated fields, that they probably don't have somebody kind of pushing them in that direction. And not everybody is going to be self-motivated to go and do it. But, I wouldn't trade, the time back, the effort back. It's been so life altering. It's funny because my husband and I think back to the difference between us in our early 30s to where we are now. And this weekend, he's an Ironman triathlete. And so that's his thing that kicked in while I started doing pageants. And so this weekend, just for a training thing, he's going to go do a half marathon, and I'm going to go host a fairs and festivals pageant. It's what a different life we live compared to a decade ago.
I love that. He's like, oh, I'm just going to go take a, nice jog of a half marathon this weekend. That's impressive. And so are you hosting it? Are you producing it? What's your role in the pageant this weekend?
Thank goodness I'm just emceeing, which is more than enough. But I love that piece and part of it, because so many women get really nervous when they compete and when they're doing those onstage questions. And I just make it an effort when I'm up there to be looking at them. And if they get nervous, I always tell them during rehearsals, look at me, I got you. And I'm going to connect with you and give you a place to kind of, okay, ground yourself, you got this. And so, and I like to be entertaining for the audience as much as I can. I rarely go on script. So to the pageant directors for this weekend, I'm so sorry. But I try to feed off the energy in the room and worst case, pick it up.
That's amazing. I love going off script. So I wholeheartedly that one on. With looking at how you've competed in pageantry and what you've built yourself up to be, do you think that women in pageantry should dress their age or their division, or do you think do you just base it on, this is my sense of style and this is who I am?
So I think younger divisions, yeah, I prefer to see a teen dress as a teen. I prefer to see that separation between teen and miss. And I know when I judge, I get a little confused sometimes. I'm like, wait, what category? So I prefer that because I think that it's I don't know. I think there are different opportunities for each division. And I think that, typically aligning with that system, a teen's going to dress more teen, a miss is going to dress more miss. Misses is that weird space, right? Because you're married, and you're very taken. But for most Mrs. contestants, that fitness piece is huge for them. And it's part of the motivation. And so I just recently did a national pageant where I wore a 2-piece swimsuit on stage. And at 46. And so I was like, I'm motivated by that and really feel my confidence go through the roof when I can wear something that maybe I do see a miss competing in. I think that that's cool. And so I think that married women should really try to find their own personal sense of style in pageantry.
And you mentioned, you were on stage in a 2-piece swimsuit and that really brought you confidence. There's a lot of talk around whether or not swimsuit and, fitness should be part of pageantry and what its place is. What's your view and your take on, having swimsuit or some type of fitness competition as part of the overall pageant?
Pageantry as a whole, it allows you to grow, right? And you gain public speaking skills and you pour into a platform or philanthropy and in your community. And fitness is a huge part of being able to do those things. And so I'm a huge advocate of having fitness as a component, whether that be fitness wear or swimsuit. I know I push myself harder when I know it's swimsuit and really hard if it's a 2-piece swimsuit, because I can't just Spanx it up. You can't just strap it down and carry on. And so I like that. I want to be physically my best. And having an autoimmune disease, I have to be healthy all the time. I have to be really focused on it. Doesn't mean I want to, doesn't mean I'm personally motivated to, but you add that swimsuit onto it and it helps. It really does. And so usually, even though prepping for a pageant can be very time consuming, I feel better because I'm doing all of the things to take care of my health.
And that makes 100% sense as well. And, looking at being a Mrs. title holder, do you feel like you have a certain responsibility when it comes to competing in pageants?
I think that, and I take this part very seriously, as a Mrs., the distinction between, for example, actually every pageant I've ever done, the distinction in the divisions is just the front end of the name, right? Whether you're a Miss, whether you're a Mrs., whether you're a Ms., it's all the same type of competition. What makes us different is that we're married. And so I've been married 20 years. I am a huge advocate of marriage. I know a lot of people kind of teeter on that. And I feel like it's something that you need to invest in, truly. It's no different than my retirement account, right? If I see it going south, I need to jump in and do something. Same thing with a marriage. And so I think that a Mrs. title holder should really be highlighting that. That's what makes us different than a Miss. So I think that's the obligation, if you will, of a Mrs.
And I feel like you've kind of already gone through this, but you competed for your first time as a Mrs. But is there a right time to jump into pageantry?
Now is that right time, because there is no time like the present. And I'll be honest with you, that's the one thing. If somebody asks me, what's your biggest regret? It's not doing this sooner. So yesterday, actually, forget the whole now thing. We're going to go back to yesterday. Yesterday is when you should join a pageant.
I think you're one of my favorite people. I love the way you think. So, we've talked so much about, who you are in pageantry, but tell me about who you are outside of the crown.
Outside of the crown, I'm a cat lover. Don't get me wrong. I love the dogs, but I'm a cat lover. I am an only child, so I'm attached to my mom, super attached. She'll be going with me this weekend when I MC, so hubby with his half marathons on his own. I am a gym rat and have been since I was in college. I can't help it. I am a reality TV binge watcher. It is what it is. And on top of that, I have a new kind of passion, love that has resurrected from my childhood. I grew up roller skating. And I don't know whether it was Cobra Kai or Stranger Things that brought back roller skating, but there are like full-on 80s roller rinks out there. And if you have not gone, please look one up. I mean, I have to drive like 2 hours to get to it, but it's all the things. And so I'm a roller rink kid.
That sounds like a ton of fun, but I'm also highly uncoordinated, so Lord knows I'd end up on my butt within 2 seconds. It's fine.
But just so you know, they use those PVC pipes, and they have created little like tripods, if you will, like walkers almost. I hate to say they look like a walker.
I need one of those.
Totally use one of those. You'd be fine.
Help me in. Yes. And this might seem like a silly question, but I get asked this quite a bit. I'm also an only child, and I feel like a lot of people expect us to be awkward or to not have great social skills or be just shy.
Mhm.
How have you dealt with being an only child and also walking into an industry that requires you to be so outgoing?
So, fortunately, as a child, I was exposed more to adults than I was children. And so, without siblings, who else are you talking to? I was kind of like a little shrunk adult. I couldn't wait to be an adult, and so I've never been shy. And my mom, fortunately, convinced me to go into speech and debate in high school. Gosh, I hope that's still available. I don't know if it is, but that was life altering. I mean, to have to speak at such a young age, and also the competitiveness, to have to defend a viewpoint. I learned very quickly how to express something that I was passionate about and try to convince others to get on board too.
I believe speech and debate is still a thing, so everyone go join that because I agree. It's super interesting and really fun. Do you like what are the things that you do, especially in preparing for a pageant and then just taking care of yourself? What do you do to take care of yourself?
That's something that I've really started to focus on. The autoimmune, it drives everything. The cliche, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? And I think what motivates or what fills people up is always very different. I'm an extrovert, so obviously being out and about that's a huge help. The gym for me is very therapeutic. The hardest part of that for me is stopping. I'm a doer. I go. I like to do all of the things, but the rest is just as important. So prioritizing that and not feeling guilty because I took a night off and I'm in the recliner with the remote. It's okay. And knowing that it's not only okay, it's probably valuable at the rate I was going all day. I love to have a spa day, mani-pedi, massage, energy work, all of those things. I think it's just important to try a lot of different things to figure out what all fills you back up. And then make sure you prioritize it every single week without fail.
I think it's funny because I think pageantry or those that compete in pageants kind of have a similar persona. We're doers. We
Yeah.
go. We love being active. We love being involved with something. We're not good at stopping. And it can truly be a challenge to slow down.
Yeah.
It's something I feel like I've learned across the board.
I'm still not great at it. I'm not going to lie. I told myself, especially for this, like I wanted to be well rested and all of those things so I could be energetic tonight. But I was still up till like 11 o'clock last night, trying to and catch up and do things and get more done. I'm starting a new job on Monday, so I'm just trying to clear my plate. And yeah, I still have trouble with it.
I feel that. And congrats on the new job.
Thank you.
So you talked about earlier about women in STEM and, bringing that into the pageant world and mixing in femininity. There's, how do you describe to somebody that maybe doesn't understand how those two things mix together? How do you describe that?
What I like to do is show them. I love when I went to a Women in STEM. I was on a panel at a Women in Technology conference for the state of West Virginia. And what I loved was showing up like this. And I think, in a what was it? Like a lilac suit, power suit, but like done, and I like to show them when I start speaking to them and share with them what I do on the daily and how this all works. It's an example that, wait a minute, those don't have to be separate. And I don't think I can tell them. I think I've got to show them.
I now need to see a photo of that lilac suit because that sounds just freaking fantastic. So with everything that you're doing in pageantry and the amazing work that you're doing in your own personal life, what do you want to be remembered for? What do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be one that helps both sufferers of autoimmune disease and those who are oblivious to have greater awareness and to not feel alone. I know that diagnosis can take years. And far too often doctors, because they're really, the symptoms overlap with a whole bunch of other diseases. There's not a lot of really clear diagnostic testing. So usually like it's a process of elimination, and it can take an eternity. I'm not lying. It took me many years to finally get an accurate diagnosis. So I know during all of that, you can really feel, I had one doctor tell me I should see a psychiatrist. And I'm like, no, I knew better. I knew my body better than that. And so I want people who are especially in that challenge of getting diagnosed to know that it's okay that it's taking time. It's okay to fight. It's okay to get second opinions. And I know I have to travel hours to get to my specialists, people who are really skilled in this type of care. And all of that is okay. And for those who don't know, I want, if they could take away one thing from having encountered me, it's maybe have a little more grace for the person next to you. If they tell you no all the time, no, they don't want to go out to dinner. No, they don't want to see a movie. I'm not talking about dating, but like if your friends are, because that could be a different reason, but like if your friends are always turning you down or just not available or just kind of exhausted, think about it. It could be that, the cloak is there and they're going through something. So I just would like for those who are not affected to just have a little more grace for those who are.
Do you ever consider the term invisible disability or invisible illness? I know that they can be different and they can be the same, but I know that that's kind of a phrase that's thrown around a lot, along with Spoonie. That's also a phrase that's thrown around. What do you think of those terms?
So I'm a fan of them because it helps people understand it. If invisible illness is the term that helps you wrap your brain around this, that's amazing. If you can, think about what spoon you're on that's great, because they are relevant. There are a handful of autoimmune that may have some visible symptoms. And I guess that's also another piece. They're not contagious. And I think that's important for people to know because, for example, psoriasis is an autoimmune disease. So if you see someone with skin plaques, you're not going to catch them. But I'm a fan of any term that can help people wrap their brain around it.
So you use your platform as USOA Mrs. West Virginia to really help kind of make more awareness around the topic of autoimmune. What do you hope to do with the rest of your year?
So the great news from all of this is, and from this video, the more exposure you get, the more followers you get, the more views you get, the more people are watching. And I know I'm in desperate need of a PR firm to help me do all these things. And when I stop doing all the things, I'll take the time to get a PR firm on board, but to help make sure that I'm hitting the audiences that I need to. I would like to, I've got some really tight sister queens that I met during the national pageant. So I intend to reach out to them, give them some of the tools that I used, and hopefully I can convince them to petition their governors to create months of autoimmune disease awareness in their states. I think that'd be amazing. But even walking away from this title, knowing that I did that in West Virginia, that it feels like a feather in my cap. I'm super proud.
What is after this title for you?
Boy, isn't that the $1 million question? I had a coach once tell me, don't make any decisions about anything pageant related until at least 30 days post-pageant, and we're not there yet. We're like literally just a couple weeks out. So I'm on the tail end of pageant hangover. If you don't know what that is, you haven't done a pageant. So I'm pretty much unpacked. I'm, catching up on all the things that I may have paused to be able to get ready. So we've got the new job, and that's going to be super exciting because I've kind of avoided supervisory positions to date, and this will be my first official supervisory position. And I'm excited because on my team, there is one other female engineer. And, it is still very male dominated. So that's super exciting to get that opportunity. Are there more pageants? Who knows? I am infected. I can't lie. I mean, this was my third system and I'm infected. So I intend to remain involved in pageantry no matter what. as helping women prepare, as MC, as judge. As enthusiast and watcher and cheerer, I have to do all of those things. Right now, we have an Ironman that my husband's going to do in July in New York. And so I'm trying to, right now especially, really pour into him and help support him get ready. It's as involved as preparing for a national pageant. So that's in the near term. And continuing the philanthropy that I do with the United Way and continuing to talk about autoimmune disease. I mean, that's the future.
Tell me a little bit more about your involvement with the United Way.
I have been a very active volunteer for almost 2 decades with them. I started out in a coworker of mine approached me because I was a grant manager at the time, and he's like, "They do grants. Would you be willing to come and like review a couple applications and maybe help them out?" I was like, "Sure." And it was as bad as the pageant bug. I couldn't step away from it. I'm like, "Wow, I see the impact of this in my community." And then I'm a fixer. And so then I started to go, what if that application was electronic? I bet I could make that electronic. And so I did. And so I end up, they asked me to chair that committee. I took the liberty at that time to make the application electronic, right? And then I was like, maybe we need to look at these kinds of things. And so then I became the chair of planning and policy. And so I've chaired numbers of committees. And then I got in the officer line and I did second VP and first VP and president. And now I'm what's the correct terminology? The immediate past president. I just finished my term in March. And I love when you can volunteer based on your skills. For me, strong suits of mine, leadership, strategy, that's my strong suit. And so those are typically the things that I offer them that they'd have to pay an awful lot for if they went out and bought that service. So I like to give back in that way. And it's pretty much perpetual. I mean, we just had another meeting, 2 meetings on Tuesday. I know in the month of May, we've got so many fundraisers and volunteer events coming up. So there's a lot of opportunity. If you're not familiar with United Way, it's a great organization to look into in your local area.
The United Way is awesome. It's a great organization. So that's just your experience with that is amazing. And I find it funny that you've never had you've never been a manager of others, yet you've served as the president of the entire board for the United Way in your area. So it's a funny, in one you've done and one the other. And
I've led a lot of things, both in my philanthropy outside of work and at work. I'm a federal employee. So being a federal supervisor to me always just looked like, woo, there's a lot of boxes to check there. And I liked doing so much that I always feared that would take away from it. But the more I get involved in the strategy and understanding the direction and the future of the laboratory where I work, I know I need the skill set. And I know I want to be able to demonstrate professionally that I've done it.
That's amazing. What kind of laboratory? That sounds really cool. I'm not going to lie.
So I work for the Department of Energy, the U.S. Department of Energy, and they have national laboratories throughout the country. And so I work for the National Energy Technology Laboratory. One site of it is here in West Virginia. And we're involved in everything from cleaning up power supplies and the way that power is made, to cutting edge technology of new methods of generation, to carbon management and helping reduce our carbon footprint. We also do a huge component of grant management for the department. And then there's cutting edge R&D and strategic analysis. I love this crew. We have a very unique crew that looks at the economics as well as the tech part of it. And it's a unique crew at our lab that not very many other places have that skill set.
That's so stinking cool. I want to come and just watch everything happen. So that's
totally give you a tour. Just send me an email. It's done.
and we'll do that the next time I'm in West Virginia. Count me in. So I've asked you what's next. I've asked you what you've done. But what was it like to get ready for a national pageant?
It's time consuming. I'm not going to lie. It really is. I don't do anything halfway. It's just not who I am as a person. And so to really it starts with kind of self-evaluation. Am I at a place where I'm ready for this? Is my soul where I'm ready to share with the world? And not every time is right. So you have to evaluate that, and obviously talk with, my husband and my mom and I sat down and we had a very long conversation. I'm like, I think I'm ready. Are you all ready? And so it's important that it's going to affect your family. It is, it's a financial commitment. It is a time commitment. It is all of the things. And so prepping everyone to be involved. And then, of course, you've got the nuts and bolts of it, right? You've got interview prep, you've got fitness, you've got amazing wardrobe shopping. It can be stressful, but it's incredible. And our latest pageant had some amazing sponsors that I had never been to before. And so, yeah, that's the fun part. I can't lie.
For maybe somebody that's not super comfortable in their body and is looking at, competing or struggles with their confidence in general, what would you tell them?
I wasn't if you go, I don't know if I want you to, but if you go back and look through my timeline, you will see that, I've continually improved my fitness. I didn't start out, with abs. I guess they were in there somewhere, but I didn't start out that way. And so for me, it was really motivating for that. And if you get a good stylist, they will help you find a style that's flattering for your body that you will feel amazing in. It's not so much about, is it current? Is it new? Especially for misses. Does it look all the thing? It's about how it makes you feel. If you feel incredible, that's going to be what shows. And so I encourage people, regardless of how, they think they might look in that fitness wear, this is where the journey starts.
And what's the greatest advice, whether it's pageant related or life related, that you've received so far in this journey?
I hate these cliches. This is like my third one. But honestly, it really is be yourself. I started out trying to be a queen, trying to be a former title holder. That was the worst part. The pageantry, the confidence that pageantry gave me has finally gotten me to a point where I'm cool showing me. And when I started, I thought a beauty queen was one particular thing. And I'll admit, I probably stalked a few title holders to try to, okay, she wore this, I should go buy that. Okay, she attended these things, maybe I should go, just trying to do all of those things and speak about those things. It was just kind of silly. But when I finally got to a place where I'm showing me, talking about me, a more refined me, I can't lie, but, showing myself to other people and particularly talking about my autoimmune disease. I didn't talk about it before. This year is really the first time that I've talked about it. It was not something that started with me when I was in pageantry, although I already suffered from it. And so I think being yourself and not being afraid to show those flaws was the best advice I've gotten.
It's so true. As you throw all the cliches out there, because they're, in the end, they're true. And as annoying as it is, that's just how it works. And it sounds like you've had an amazing support system along the way. But in terms of, organizations like Beauty Queens Galore, what do you wish you saw more of in terms of maybe diversity or help or just resources?
I wish I saw less gatekeeping. I wish people would share. I love those posts at the end of a pageant where a woman goes through and identifies all the people that she's thanking, so that women who are, where did that amazing dress come from? Who was your fitness coach? Those kinds of things. If you're impressed with someone, I think that's a great way to kind of pour into yourself, is maybe try out some of the sponsors they used or some of the coaches that they used. I think that that would be a piece of it. But honestly, it's also more interviews like this and exposure to not just national queens, but state queens. You've got so many women doing such incredible things, and it's inspiring for me to see other women talk about what they're doing. And it makes you kind of think, maybe I need to be more mindful of, or that's an opportunity to get involved. So I think it also pulls back the curtain for pageantry and helps people realize, nah, you can be you. So I think those things would help.
I love that. And it's true. Like, throw it out there. In the end, it's not a secret. Share the love. It's awesome. We're all here to support each other. I have asked you 1.5 million questions. You are now one of my favorite people. But I am going to play a quick game of this or that with you to wrap everything up.
I love it. All right, I'm ready.
Amazing. Swimsuit or evening gown?
Oh, no, I'm not ready. And the problem is it used to be evening gown because, I mean, don't get me wrong, the lilac pantsuit, the power suit was great, but who has a red carpet moment like you do in a pageant? So it used to totally be evening gown, but now the confidence boost and the fitness benefits I get from swim, it's swim.
That is fair. Natural glam or full glam?
Girl, full glam, glam all the way because we are natural in the rest of our lives. Yeah, I'm for the full glam.
Dress or jumpsuit?
I love a good jumpsuit. Jumpsuit all the way.
All right, competing in a pageant with or without coaching?
Go with coaching. Oh, and I got to tell you, the first time I competed, even all the way through Mrs. America, I had no real coaching. And I look back now and go, how did you not know? I mean, there were so many things I just didn't know. So coaching, definitely coaching, lots of coaching.
Love that. One piece or two piece swimsuit?
Oh, well, I've checked the 2-piece box now. So, no, I want abs. It was so cool to have abs. And we just got our photos back and I showed them to my husband. And that's the first thing that came out of his mouth. He's like, look at your abs. So since my husband thought that I looked pretty nice in that 2-piece, I'm going to have to say 2-piece.
I love that. All right, last one. Sneakers or stilettos?
Stilettos. Platform too, because I'm only 5'6".
That's still pretty tall for a woman. So don't. And yes, that was an intended pun. Thank you so incredibly much for chatting with me tonight. For everyone that wants to follow along with the rest of your journey and what you may do next, where can they find you?
So I hope that they're going to click the link that was associated with this because this is going to be on my Facebook page. But if you search Alicia Dalton-Tingler, believe it or not, I'm the only one. So you can find me on TikTok. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. And you search Alicia Dalton-Tingler, I'm the only one you're going to get.
I love that. Thank you so much. I cannot wait to see what you do with the rest of your year and have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you so much. It was such an honor. When you all asked me to do this, I was over the moon. So I just appreciate this opportunity and that you guys are so invested in pageantry and making sure that people see behind the scenes. So thank you.
What we're here for. All right, everyone, have a wonderful rest of your night. Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget to follow Alicia so that you can see everything magical and amazing that she does because she is, if you haven't just figured it out, amazing and magical. And you can follow along in her journey and you can also follow along on the Beauty Queen Galore platforms. I'm Molly Casey and I can't wait to see you all next time. Bye, y'all.